So you want to be a beta tester? Well, now you are. Welcome to the very quick, hopefully quick, overlay overview. So we have, by default, this little information panel up here and this little navigation bar down here. The buttons of the navigation bar change depending on what features are available and how you set them in the preferences. But more often than not, these are very, very static, right? This one's always at the top, this one's always at the bottom, etc. It always looks like this one always looks like this. So what if you want to have your own user interface? Well, this is where overlays come in. So overlays are exactly what it sounds like. It is something that overlays your 360 or your flat image behind, much like these things do. You notice they never move, even when the content behind them is moving. To create an overlay, you're going to go into the overlays area here or use the link that you were sent. Just create a new one, as you do with everything else in the platform, and you're greeted with the overlay designer. So here's the terminology and the concepts. Overlays are built up of nodes. So nodes are currently these objects here. There are a bunch more coming, but these are the ones that are here at the time of recording. So to insert a node, you would simply click on it, and here it is. Nodes have their own properties. So it is this tab here, the Node Properties panel. You can also get to it by double-clicking. This is the background image one, so it has its own properties that are specific to it. I will just change this to an icon, just so we have something to look at. The book icon, for example. All right, so if I was to go and select another node, for example, a container, I'll insert that now. Container node, as the name suggests, is able to contain other nodes and format them. This is all explained in the help file down here if you would like to check that out. You'll notice that when I click on this, I now get this flex container option versus when I click on this, I get a background image option here, right? So the properties do change depending on what you've got selected. These are all fairly self-explanatory. Nodes, to continue on with the nodes and terminology, nodes can contain other nodes. Specifically, the container node can contain other nodes. This is set up either by having the node selected when you insert a new one. For example, if I was to insert another image, it's now inserted the image into the container node. So if I set this to another icon, just so we can see something, you'll see that this one moves with the parent, right? You can only parent things to container nodes or to the overlay. So if you try and insert something into the image icon, for example, it'll say, no, you can't do that. So you either have to then select the overlay or select a container node. There's a rudimentary user library set up already. So if you create something and you want to save it to the library, you can do that. It does not do nested containers. So if you create a very fancy container node and then try and save that to the library, it's not going to save any of the children's stuff in it, but it does save all the formatting, text content for rich text hotspots, etc. Rich text nodes, I mean. Okay, so nodes can be combined into all sorts of different ways to make an overlay. Up here, how do you add interactivity to that overlay? Well, this double-clicking gets me into the properties panel, and this is where we talk about actions. So every node can have actions assigned to it. You can layer actions, you can have multiple actions. I'm going to create an action, and an action is triggered by, surprise, the trigger. So when I click this book, what do I want to happen? Or when I hover over the book, what do I want to happen? Or when the snap loads, what do I want this book to do, right? So you have all these different triggers to choose from. So I can say on click. Then for my other type of action, I have what do I want this action to do, right? So this is very similar to the hotspots. You define, what the hotspot is going to do when someone clicks it, except in this case, you can say, okay, well, what do I want this node to do when the trigger happens? So you can do very similar things currently. Again, there's more on the menu. Node visibility and animation at this time have the ability to attach animations to them. So for example, if I want this box to disappear, this container, which, might be an information box or contain a video or whatever, if I want it to disappear when I click the book, I'd say, okay, well, I want a node to disappear when I click this book, right? I want to change the visibility, and I want to hide that. And what node do I want to hide? Well, I want to hide the container. Okay, so you see I have two images here. I'm going to digress for a bit because you need to name all your nodes, because things are going to get real crazy real quick if you have 50 things all called image. And while it does show you what you have selected as you highlight or hover over the area here, that does get a bit iffy when you have lots of images. So I'm going to say, okay, container, I want you to hide. And done. I clicked it and it hid. But that's all it did, right? It didn't toggle because there's another option where you can toggle things. Okay, so this is all set up in the visibility area. Each action, if it supports it, can have an animation. So I can say, okay, well, I would also like to change the opacity of the target when I click it. So you can change that via the animation. If you want it to do multiple animations, you just click and add another animation. So now you can say, well, I also want it to rotate around a little bit. Okay, so nodes have actions. Actions can have animations. You can have multiple actions. You can have multiple animations. You can layer them, and you can create all sorts of crazy interactive content with things hiding and showing and zipping off screen or rotating or growing, whatever you like. Okay. The layers area here will let you manage the layers. We are calling them layers of nodes. So right now, the container, here you can see it highlighting, has the image inside of it, whereas this image is its own, it's not inside a container, it's just in the overlay. Okay, so you got your usual tree structure here of items. You can hide and show items. Any of their children will hide and show depending on that setting. You can also lock items. This is very handy if you're accidentally, if you have a lot of small images and you find yourself accidentally clicking and dragging them, you can lock them so there's no interactivity anymore in the editor. It's also a real good way to shoot yourself in the foot if you can't figure out why you're unable to click something. The odds are pretty good that you have locked it in here. There is the ability to reorder things and relayer things. If things are on top of each other, what you can do is you can click and drag and reorder things. The reordering is a little bit flaky at the moment. Usually, more often than not, dragging a top node underneath it instead of dragging a bottom one above it is sometimes a little more reliable. But yes, you can layer things as well. All of the other properties for the node are listed here. You can fold this out of the way if you want more real estate. There's a whole preview section here which will simulate what things look like in various browsers and sizes. There's an alignment tool which will snap your objects. It also works on parents. So you can see here now the parent has a snapping and alignment tool in it for the children, which is very handy. And once you save it, please save often. I should also mention, you go into your snap, you set the overlay to your custom overlay, and magic. Whoosh, there we go, right? You have your overlay overlaid on top of your images. There's a new area called Team Files where you can upload team files, right? They don't just have to be SVGs. You can upload PNGs now as well. And you can use them as sources for your images currently. So this book, I could change the background image to be a team file. And here we go. It's now Clip Art Businessman. And I believe that this one is transparent. It should have transparency support as well. And it is. So now I click on this guy, it spins out of the way, easy peasy. When I opened up the properties panel here, you may have noticed this area here. This is the overlay node actions area, we're calling it. And what this does basically is it allows you to override any existing node actions or to add node actions which will only work on this snap. For example, the image, which is this guy here, currently has the on-click event, which we know, which has the rotate and opacity animations on it. We cannot change this one because it's part of the overlay, but we could disable it. So for this snap, now, when we reload it, that action is disabled, okay, but only for that snap. So this allows you to customize things depending on the content that the viewer is looking at. What we could do as well is we could turn this one off or leave it off and add a completely new one. Different plans have different limitations on things as well. I'm just doing a test right now, so I only have the ability to add in one, which is why I'm seeing this. However, we could say, okay, well, if you're on this snap and this snap only, when he clicks it, I want you to, go to a URL, and I want you to go to Google in the same tab, okay? So I can click that. I'll reload this, and poof, there we are. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way. Okay, so that gives you a ton of flexibility as far as customization. So you're not just having to create an overlay for a specific snap or creating a bunch of overlays to do different things. You can customize a single overlay per snap basis. In the future, you'll be able to replicate all of the existing functionality of the existing user interface as well as much more. Currently, what you see is what you get. However, anyways, have fun. Please leave any feedback, comments, send them to me in an email. Bug reports, please let me know how to replicate them and things like what browser you're using, etc. So have fun, and I can't wait to see what you guys make.